Hey there guys, welcome back. This week's Witchling is happiness. So I'm going to read you the meanings from the booklet, the Book of Spells Witchlings booklet, and then I'm going to discuss my own feelings about the card. Violet's recipe for happiness won't necessarily work for you. To find your own, take an honest look at who you are and what you do. Thriving in the adventurous creativity of the spirit, happiness is an overall state of being. Happiness isn't found, happiness is made. Created from the internal workings of the mind, happiness is a journey towards self-love. Treat yourself well and live moment to moment with a peaceful heart, maintaining a healthy relationship with yourself. Pave the way for a life of happiness by doing what carries the most meaning to you and what brings you the most contentment. That's a good suggestion from the booklet this time. Sometimes I don't think they're that great, but that's great. And on the card, if happiness is what you want, then happy you shall be. Interesting. So having a look at the card, initial thoughts is it gives me the impression of a ballerina, or perhaps, as I was looking at this card yesterday, a carousel. I think it's the shape of the skirt that sort of suggests a carousel. And to me that's a good image of happiness. It's about going around in the cycles of life, and there are highs and lows, and it's all about how you engage with it. It's either a fun, happy experience, or you're uncomfortable and dreading it. She's holding a flower in one hand and is sort of pointing at the moon in the other. That's the waning moon, so growing bigger. So happiness is something that grows, perhaps. Lunar energies are to do with new beginnings and embracing your gifts, as well as things growing, and happiness can grow certainly, and that would tie into the energies of the flower as well. Flowers being something that grow and blossom and bloom, and therefore your happiness is something that you can tend in your own garden. You can grow your own happiness. It can bloom if you put the effort and the work in that is required to make things grow. Things can grow by themselves, but in optimal conditions, in sunlight, water, fertile ground, things are going to grow, and we can apply that to ourselves in terms of sunlight can be a positive mental attitude, bringing ourselves into happiness, and I don't really want to use light in terms of positive energy, but to help ourselves grow, so a positive mental attitude with solar energies. And water ourselves, give our emotions our own needs, and feed ourselves what we need spiritually in order to grow. And then fertile ground is allowing ourselves to be as receptive to messages of happiness and spiritual growth as we can. There's also a sort of clown element. She's wearing what looks like an Elizabethan ruff. And is very poised. There is an element of silly about this card. Her expression is one of silliness, and perhaps the clown energy, although not overt, is about not taking yourself too seriously. The eyes almost look in two separate directions, and it's a little bit weird. Let's see if I can... Can you see how they almost look in two separate directions? And to me it could be one eye in the past, one eye in the future, but being present, I guess. It's not that you completely disregard past things and future things, but it's about being present in the here and now. The rest of her image is very balanced, even though she's got a sort of stepping ballerina style leg movement going on. Her whole body is very poised and very balanced, very graceful. And again, we have that dancer energy flowing into this week that we had last week, although this week it definitely looks more prima ballerina than last week's, which was much more burlesque and can dancer. But this week with the leg pose, that definitely reminds me of ballerina. She's even got the shoes on for it. So what is that about? Well, the first image that comes to, or thought that comes to mind with ballerinas is sort of grace and poise. It's interesting that they've chosen to put the ballerina shoes in, because ballerina shoes are the most painful, bloody things going, and it absolutely ruins the feet. However, perhaps the whole point is to rise above the pain of these things, that life isn't going to be easy and there are going to be painful moments, but it's all about how we engage with that. We can either fall down and give up, or we can keep on dancing. There's also an element of being graceful about your own personal happiness. Sometimes there is a tendency in modern societies to sort of ram our happiness down other people's throats as if it somehow makes us better than others. And of course that's not actual happiness. True happiness is in a series of moments, and perhaps that does tie back to the dancing image, because each fluidity of moments is sort of captured by particular stances, particular poses in between the fluid motions, particularly in ballet. If you think about, like, they will hold a pose before gracefully flowing into another, that is perhaps synonymous with happiness in our lives, that happiness is a series of moments, and we have to flow through life with grace and poise and embrace those moments of happiness. Again, there are flowers growing from her feet, from the dance, and that's obviously synonymous with not only the dance and her feet on the path, but with that element of growing and you're tending your own personal garden again. So I think that's it for this video. I think I've talked about everything I want to. Yeah, I think so. Many blessings.